Welcome to my channel. This is Mr. Black Knight Scary. I'm so glad you guys found me. Please make sure to leave a like on the video as it helps my channel grow and reach more viewers. Enjoy the fresh content and be sure to subscribe now. And remember to click that notification bell so that you don't miss a story in the future. I know there are thousands of channels like mine that you could have chosen, so thank you guys so much for choosing to listen to mine. I truly appreciate your time. To have your story featured on an upcoming video, email the link in the description box below. Thank you all for listening. Like I always say, sit back, relax, and enjoy these truly terrifying winter horror stories. Story number 1. I still shudder when I think about that fateful winter day last year. My friend Alex and I had been planning our snowshoeing trip for weeks, eager to explore the pristine trails and take in the breathtaking scenery. The snow-covered mountains had always been our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the chaos of everyday life and reconnect with nature. But little did we know, our peaceful adventure would turn into a nightmare. As we trudged through the knee-deep snow, the crunch of our snowshoes echoed through the forest. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape. We had been walking for hours, and the tranquility of the surroundings had lulled us into a sense of security. That's when we heard the distant rumble of snowmobiles. At first, we thought nothing of it, assuming it was just a group of enthusiasts enjoying the trails. But as the sound grew louder, our instincts began to kick in. The trees seemed to close in around us as the snowmobiles burst into view. 2 men clad in black jackets and helmets sped towards us, their machines spewing snow and ice in all directions. Alex and I exchanged a nervous glance, our heart racing in unison. Something didn't feel right. As the men approached, they killed their engines and dismounted their machines. Their faces were obscured by their helmets, making it impossible to read their expressions. One of them, clearly the leader, took a step forward, his eyes fixed on us in an unnerving intensity. Well, what do we have here? He sneered, his voice dripping with malice. 2 little snowshoers all alone in the woods. What could possibly go wrong? My mind was racing, trying to process the situation. Were they just going to rob us, or was this something more sinister? The leader's accomplice, a hulking figure with a cruel grin, began to circle around us, his eyes scanning our bodies as if searching for something. The leader pulled out a gun, its barrel glinting in the fading light. We're going to need your wallets, phones, and any other valuables you might have on you. And don't even think about trying anything stupid. I felt a wave of terror wash over me as I slowly reached for my wallet. Alex, trying to remain calm, began to explain that we didn't have much cash on us, but the leader just laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. Oh, I'm sure you'll make it worth our while. He sneered, his eyes lingering on our snowshoes and backpacks. As we handed over our belongings, the accomplice began to rummage through our packs, pulling out energy bars, water bottles, and other assorted gear. The leader, meanwhile, seemed to be enjoying our fear, his eyes glinting with a sadistic pleasure. The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. I was convinced that they were going to kill us and leave us to freeze in the wilderness. But then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the men mounted their snowmobiles and sped off, leaving us shaken and vulnerable. As we watched them disappear into the trees, Alex turned to me, his face pale. What just happened? He whispered, his voice trembling. I shook my head, still trying to process the events. I don't know, but we need to get out of here now. We quickly gathered our scattered belongings and began to make our way back down the mountain, our senses on high alert. The darkness seemed to press in around us, making every snap of a twig or hoot of an owl sound like a potential threat. We didn't stop moving until we stumbled back into the parking lot, exhausted and traumatized. As we peeled off our snowshoes and collapsed onto the cold asphalt, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had narrowly escaped something far worse than robbery. The experience left an undeniable mark on me, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks in the most unexpected places. Even now, as I look back on that terrifying encounter, I'm haunted by the memory of those men, their faces hidden behind helmets, their eyes gleaming with a malevolent intent. The mountains, once a symbol of serenity and beauty, now seemed like an ominous and foreboding threat. I tried to return to the trails, to recapture the sense of wonder and awe that I once felt. But the fear lingers, a constant companion that I couldn't shake even if I wanted to. As I sit here reflecting on that fateful day, I'm reminded of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of the human experience. The darkness that we encountered on those snow-covered trails is a reminder that, no matter how prepared we think we are, there's always a possibility of something going horribly wrong. And as I glance out the window, watching the snow fall gently into the darkness, I'm left with a sense of unease, a feeling that the horrors we faced on that winter day are still out there, waiting to strike again. Story number 2. The first snow of the season fell the night before we arrived at the cabin on Mount Hood. A soft, relentless whisper that turned the pine-covered ridge into a whitewashed cathedral. My parents had found a cozy 2-story log cabin perched on the edge of a clearing, only a half-hour's walk from the main sledding hill. It smelled of pine sap and old firewood, the kind of smell that makes you think the walls themselves might be breathing. We were a noisy group of kids. My 3 siblings, me, 12, my older brother Alex, 15, and my little sister Maya, 7, plus Mom, Dad, and the dog. Rusty, our dog, who chased his own tail in circles of powder. The first day we spent the morning on the hill, my brother streaking down the slope on his board, me and Maya tumbling over each other on a rickety sled, Mom laughing as she watched from the porch. The world was bright, the sky a clean blue, and the snow glittered like 1,000 shards of glass. Night fell early. We gathered around the fireplace, Mom's voice barely a murmur over the crackling logs. "We'll have a quiet night, kids. You're all going to bed early, okay? Dad and I need to pick up some supplies for the Christmas dinner." The words felt like a promise wrapped in sugar. Alex rolled his eyes, but even he didn't protest. Maya yawned, curled up into a ball, and fell asleep before the first ember of the fire died out. I was the first to leave the cabin that morning. The sky had turned a cold steel gray, and the world was mute except for the faint thumping of my heart against my chest. I slipped on my boots, opened the front door, and the wind slammed into me, filling my lungs with the scent of frozen pine. The snow outside was a perfect canvas, unmarked, untouched except for the tracks of our sleds and boards from the day before. I stepped on the porch and paused, noticing a series of deep footprints leading from the front window towards the dense line of trees that bordered the property. They were too large for any of us, broad and round, the kind of tread a man's heavy boots would leave. The prints disappeared into the shadows of the woods, but then oddly, they reappeared farther in. They led back towards the cabin but stopped abruptly at the edge of a small clearing. A prickle rose along my spine. I called out, "Hey, anyone out there?" No answer, only the wind rustling through the firs. I frowned and looked back at the cabin. The curtains were drawn. Mom and Dad would be out by now, loading up on groceries. I turned back to the prints, curiosity fighting with instinct. I followed them, feeling the crunch of fresh snow beneath my boots, each step a tiny echo in the silence. The trail wound through a thicket of spruce, the world narrowing to a tunnel of low branches. As I approached the clearing, the wind stilled as if the forest itself was holding its breath. In the middle of the snow lay a single dark silhouette. A man, his face obscured, his coat the color of midnight, a wide-brimmed hat tipped low. He was crouched, his hands clasped around a thick rope, the other end dangling towards the cabin. My breath hitched. I swallowed hard, trying to recall any story about strangers appearing in the woods. I should have turned back. I should have called my parents. But the sight of the rope, the way it seemed to vibrate with an unseen tension, pulled me forward. I took a step, then another, and the man's head snapped up. His eyes, cold, unblinking, locked on mine. A smile cracked across his mouth, a grin that seemed to stretch wide for his face. "Little one," he whispered, his voice a rasp that scraped against the snow. "You've come just in time." The world tilted. For a heartbeat, the cabin's warm glow seemed far away, a distant promise. I turned and ran, the sound of my own panic beating like war drums in my ears. The forest suddenly felt alive, branches clawing at my jacket, the snow turning into a slick, treacherous river that threatened to swallow me whole. I burst out of the trees and slammed the cabin door shut, heart pounding, hands shaking so hard the knob threatened to break. Mom and Dad were not there. The kitchen was empty, the refrigerator humming a lonely lullaby. I slammed the door again, leaning against it, breath forming white ghosts in the cramped space. "You okay?" Maya's voice a squeak from the hallway. She peered around the corner, eyes wide, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Alex stood in the doorway, his board propped against the wall, his face an angry mask. "Did you see him?" I whispered, eyes darting to the window where the footprints seemed to melt into the snow outside. Alex stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "He's on the other side of the woods, near the old lookout. He's been waiting. He knows we're here." Dad's voice crackled through the speakerphone, a low baritone that trembled. "We're at the store. We'll be back soon. Stay inside, lock the doors. Don't go outside." The sound of the line died, replaced by the faint click of a metal chain dragging across the floorboards. Rusty's bark. My mind raced. I could hear the wind again. Now a low howl that seemed to echo his words. The cabin's shadows stretched, shaping themselves into grotesque silhouettes. I could feel the cabin's walls breathing, the wood groaning under some unseen weight. We gathered close, Alex sliding a blanket over Maya's shoulders, Mom pulling the curtains shut, Dad's voice looping on his cell. "I'm on the way. Stay together." The snow outside kept falling, each flake a tiny dagger of cold that hammered against the windows. Midnight arrived like a blade. The wind screamed, and through the cracks in the shutters I thought I saw movement. A shape shifting in the snow. The rope was there, half visible, stretching from the woods towards the cabin's side door, curling like a serpent. A sudden knock rattled the front door. My blood froze. "Is anyone there?" A low, guttural voice called, the same rasp as earlier, but this time it was closer. Closer, as if the man stood right behind the door. I couldn't move. My siblings clutched each other, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. The knob turned slowly, each click a thunderclap. The door swung inward with a suddenness that made the cabin groan. The darkness poured in, a black tide that swallowed the weak glow of the lamp. And then, the world was silent. The only sound was the wind outside, still howling, still whispering that the forest held secrets older than our Christmas lights. I felt a cold hand grip my wrist, the rope tightening around my throat, and a voice whispered in my ear, "Merry Christmas." The last thing I saw before the darkness claimed me was Alex's face, twisted in fury, a single line of his board's edge glinting in the faint light. Him, not the stranger, standing between us and the night, his board poised like a weapon. The rope slipped from my fingers and the world snapped back into the cabin. The door slamming shut with a deafening bang, wood splintering. In the sudden quiet, we all stared at the half-empty hallway. Alex was gone. Morning light bled through the curtains, painting the snow in a pale gold. Mom's frantic cries filled the kitchen. We searched the woods, calling Alex's name until our voices were raw, until the wind seemed to answer with only the rustle of pine needles. The rope lay coiled at the base of a pine, half buried, as if it had been abandoned by its master. The police arrived later, their boots crunching over the snow, eyes scanning the scene. They found Alex's board abandoned near the lookout, a deep gouge in the bark where someone or something had thrust it into the tree, as if marking a territory. A single set of massive footprints looped around the cabin. No, around the whole clearing, ending at a spot where the snow was freshly disturbed, a circular patch of bare earth revealing a shallow indentation where perhaps a person had stood. We left Mount Hood that night, the cabin left behind, its windows dark, its doors forever ajar. The memory of the footprints still haunts me, the echo of that man's rasping whisper. Every winter now, when the first snow drifts onto my doorstep, I hear a faint creak in the floorboards and think of the rope, of the cold hand, and wonder if the forest is still waiting, patient for the next child to step out into its whitewashed cathedral. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the video until the very end. Please be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe now if you haven't already done so. It helps my channel grow and thrive more than you know. And if you want your true terrifying experiences shared on an upcoming video, check the link in the bio and send me an email ASAP. Stay safe out there.